Hello everyone, Larry with Rustlick Retreats here. Today I want to talk to you about a little of my life experiences and things that have happened in my lifetime. We all know about the story where Peter walks on water. In Matthew 14:22 to 32, where Jesus walks on the water, most of us have heard this story where after Jesus was done preaching, he made the disciples get into the boat and go to the other side of the Sea of Galilee ahead of him. While they were in the boat, he went up to the mountainside by himself to pray. Later that night, the boat was a considerable distance from the land and was being buffeted by waves because of the wind. And I can just imagine the waves were not little waves, they were probably 6, 7, 8 foot waves, and the wind was really blowing and howling. And then shortly before dawn, Jesus went out to them walking on the lake. And when the disciples saw this, they were terrified, wondering if this was a ghost, and they cried out in fear. And can you just imagine if you put yourself into that boat and it's buffeting and is moving, and then they see this person, or they probably can't even tell it's Jesus at first, and he's a long ways away, and as he's walking towards them, they're thinking, wow, what is this supernatural being? What's going to happen here? You know, they're very fearful. And then Jesus said immediately to them to take courage, don't be afraid, it's me. And you would think when he uttered those words, they would calm down and realize, hey, this is this is Jesus that's walking here. So, and then Peter is the rock and probably one of the most outspoken, says, Lord, if it's you, tell me to come out under the water. So of course Jesus says, yeah, come on out. So I can imagine the boat is, going up and down and swaying left to right, and Peter's struggling to get out of the boat. And he gets out and he lands on the water, and the waves are crashing over him, but he's still standing there, but he's still in the waves. And then as he begins to walk to Jesus, he begins to sink, and he's losing faith. I can just imagine him sitting there and doing a dog paddle, or trying to keep his head above the waves, and he says, Lord, Lord, save me. And then immediately Jesus reaches out his hand and caught him, and he says to him, you have little faith, why did you doubt? So Jesus gets him, and he probably has his arm around him, and he's helping him get back into the boat, and this boat's moving and swaying and going up and down. And then once they finally get into the boat, all of a sudden the wind just stops. It completely calms down. And then they're all amazed. I mean, can you just imagine that if you were there? Wow, this is really something. Not only did he walk on water, and he allowed Peter to walk on water, but he also instantly calmed the waves. And they said in the passage that they worshiped him, saying that you truly are the Son of God. So when I was thinking about this passage, and this is what God put on my heart today, there's been so many times that I wondered where God was in my life. He seemed to be quiet. He seemed to be not existent. But even the disciples that had doubts and lacked faith, and they had Jesus with him, and they had those fears. These men traveled with Jesus, and they saw the miracles that he was doing. They had just fed 5,000 people with 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish, where no one went hungry. They had just seen this hours ago, but yet they were afraid. They were doubting in just that few of hours. And being with Jesus, you would think that would inspire them, but they still were afraid. That's in our human nature, to be afraid and to doubt. And they lacked faith at that moment. And I understand it was a very scary time for them, just like it's a scary time for us. A lot of things are happening in this world at the time, but Jesus was there with them. So to be transparent with you, it's okay to be afraid. I have moments in my life that I'm very afraid. It's okay to be afraid of the virus. This is a normal thing. In my life, I can remember when we had started attending the missionary church in Walled Lake, the pastor had approached me, and I'd only been there a month or so, about leading a men's group. So I went to prayer over it, and very, very introverted at that point in my life, way more than I am today. And after much prayer, and I mean much prayer, because I'm the type of person that says God open the doors or close the doors, and I'm saying, I can be pretty stupid sometimes, so make sure this is really what you want me to do. And I kind of overpray on things to make sure that's really what God wanted me to do, and he did. And so I agreed, and I said, God, okay, this is what you want for me. This is what I'm willing to do. I'm going to follow you and do as you want. That was the easy part, was agreeing. The doing it is much, much harder. You see, I didn't know anyone at the church. We'd been there a couple months. And it's like, okay, God, now how am I supposed to meet men, create a group, and I don't know anybody. I'm very introverted. I'd rather sit in the back of the church and not talk to people than go up and meet people. So as I prayed over this, God gave me the answer. He says, introduce yourself. And I'm thinking, okay, well, I understand that. I got that. I know I need to introduce myself, but, how am I going to do that? Wow, this is going to be pretty hard for this guy. God, how am I supposed to do that? I kept praying, God, what do you want me to do? And he gave me such a simple answer. He said, extend your hand and say hi. That's all you have to do. Just reach out there with your hand, say hi. My name is Larry. I'm thinking, okay, now that's kind of weird, but okay, if that's what I should do, I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to give it a try. I'm going to do my best. I'm going to follow, and hopefully it'll all work out, but I'm still praying over this. So right after church, before life groups, there was a period of about 15 minutes or so when everyone would gather and have coffee. I said, wow, that's the best time to do it. This is the ideal time to do it. Everybody's in the same room. I can go and hit all the men at once, and I'm pre-thinking all this stuff. So I walk up to the first person next to my head, and I say, hey, hi, my name's Larry. And this guy looks at me kind of weird, and he's like, who's this dude? Who are you, Kind of like I had a virus or something. And he kind of cautiously takes my hand, and he said, hey, my name is Dave. And now not knowing what to say, we're both in that awkward moment when we're looking around at each other and we don't know what to say. So I just quickly say, hey, it's nice to meet you, and I move on to the next guy. Probably not the most important or appropriate thing for me to do, but man, I was introverted, and that's how I got out of that one. So I proceeded to do this a couple more times, and as I'm making my way around the room, now I feel them looking at me, kind of like, who's this guy, and what's he doing, and why is he doing this? And because they didn't know who I was or what I was really about. That 15 minutes seemed like it took an hour. In reality, it was only 15 minutes. During that time, I was only able to meet about 5 men, but I figured, okay, I'll do this again the next time. So now, jumping ahead, a couple months later, I was able to actually get 20 men plus to show up and meet monthly. And this just happened because I was willing to be the hands and feet of Jesus. I was willing to reach out to these men, even when I felt really foolish. And boy, did I feel foolish. The introduction wasn't the only time I felt foolish in this journey, let me tell you. But it didn't matter because I saw men grow closer to God. So therefore, I was obedient and I followed. So let me ask you, what are you waiting for? Who are you reaching out to? Are you reaching out to families, friends, co-workers? Are you loving on others? I see people sharing on social media all kinds of things during this time. They're great inspirational things, that's awesome, but I'm not seeing people reaching out and sharing how they're loving on others. This is the time when people need us. This is the time people need us to be the hand and feet of Jesus. But yet, everybody is seemingly willing to post other things, but they're not posting what they're doing themselves. So I encourage you to get out and get some fresh air, enjoy the sun over the next few days, love on others, reach out to those coworkers, reach out to those friends, reach out to neighbors. You don't have to necessarily get out of your safe distance. The government wants us to be safe and be 6 feet away. That's fine, but you can wave, you can smile. But above all, post the stuff on Facebook that you're doing this. You're reaching out to these people. You're having these conversations. We love you all very much. We want you to stay safe. We'd like you to come visit Rustic Retreats. It's going to be an awesome time in the next few days. The weather's warming up. The birds are really singing. So just, step out of your comfort zone today. Love on others. Thank you. Love you so much.